All right. Happy Monday night. Hope you guys are doing well. Got a few people hopping in the chat here early on. Appreciate y'all running up with me on a Monday night. We will get into all of the awesome Q&A that you guys have around estate planning, tax mitigation, wealth management, all the things that might have to do with your digital assets and the hopefully imminent and large liquidity event that's on the horizon here for a lot of people in the space. So I'm going to start it off. Some of the things we talked about in the Mastermind a little bit earlier today for people that are not there. We did see Korea come online with their validator on the XRPL, which is awesome. It's good to see institutional adoption for people running validators on the network. I think that will continue. We saw SBI come live last week, and now we have another institution that has a virtual asset money transmitter license there in Korea come online. So I know a lot of people are anticipating the end of the case between Ripple and the SEC. I don't think that actually leads to any price appreciation for XRP as much as people want it to. I'm pretty confident that the price appreciation for XRP, if it does get it, will have to come from other parties utilizing the asset to settle and validating transactions on the network, and it will have to be separate of Ripple's involvement. Because if it is correlated to Ripple, then it becomes a security, right? And that's the whole premise of the case: is XRP is not a security of Ripple. It's a completely independent asset that is agnostic, and they just utilize the ledger to be able to, provide the enterprise products that they offer for banks and financial institutions. So that's kind of my anticipation. The other thing that, a couple things. We got Roaring Kitty that showed back up today on Twitter. Hasn't tweeted in over a year, and it magically shows back up. And we've got GameStop and everybody going wild over there, up 110% today. They had to, freeze trading again, just illustrating how important it is for real-time settlement and an accounting mechanism that goes across all of the clearinghouses and brokers. Still don't have that in place, obviously, and so they do continue to be able to freeze trading on things. People, posture and believe that it's so that hedge funds can't lose money. That's actually not the case. It's because the clearinghouses front so much capital, there's so much volume on the stock that they can't settle real time. They have exposure and risk for loss because there is no accounting mechanism across all the brokers to make sure that they are not overselling the amount of stock that they have allocated. And for that reason, to be able to limit their losses and the risk and the exposure, they do freeze it, right? They freeze the trading and stop it so that they can make sure that everything is situated on the back end and that there's not significant losses for the clearinghouses. So again, there's a lot of people out there that will run their mouth about this, that, and the other. But the real issue is that there's not a ledger that's across all of those that allows for real-time accounting and settlement of the trading between those parties. So hopefully we get T+1 supposed to go into effect. I think here in 15 days, May 28th was the announcement that they made for that. So we will see, what we end up with there. But, the anticipation is that they are going to move to T+1 instead of T+2, which should shore things up a little bit. It's still not real time, still not doesn't solve all the problems and exposure. And, especially, we now that we have the ETFs and the spot ETFs for Bitcoin, they settle T+2. So I've talked about this before, but if there's significant losses for the investment banks on Bitcoin and it doesn't rebound quickly, they're going to need to pull from other positions and could cause some other havoc in the stock market. On that topic, we do have also the Tether CEO coming out and throwing shots at Brad Garlinghouse after his recent interview. where he did, mention that the U.S. government is looking into Tether, which I can also verify through other sources in my network. Whether or not that has larger implications, they still are investigating them. And, do they get sanctioned? Why would he respond in the manner that he did? I think that shows that he's a little bit concerned about what Brett Garlinghouse had mentioned in the interview, and the U.S. government kind of stepping in with some oversight with them. Other people have speculated that the U.S. already rolled them under the Fed or the Treasury and is buying up treasuries with Tether that they're minting, which is a great scapegoat because they stopped QE a little while ago, and that would be able to provide some liquidity to purchase those treasuries as foreign entities divest. We've seen China and Japan liquidate, I think it's like $72 billion over the last 12 months in U.S. treasuries, and that will continue. You've still got the yen in a precarious position. They've seemed to have quelled the imminent losses there, but they are in a negative feedback loop. Basically, when they use U.S. dollars to buy the yen, strengthens the U.S. dollar and then pushes the yen down, and so it's just a doom loop that they're in. They will have to shore up their currency eventually with something. SBI, again, like I pointed out, did push their validator live last week for the XRPL. It's my belief, and this is not verified. I have no substance behind this, so just say that it's my speculation that Japan, will utilize the XRPL for their CBDC to settle between intermediaries. I'm not saying that they're using Ripple. SBI has interest in multiple other companies that use similar technologies to Ripple, so it may be something separate of Ripple and their technologies. Might be another company, but my belief is that they will utilize XRP to settle those transactions. Yoshitaka Kitao, who is the CEO of SBI, has mentioned multiple times that he believes that all the banks in Japan will be utilizing XRP by, his words, not mine, by 2025. So he's got 7 months if he's going to be right on that one. So anyway, that's where we'll kick it off tonight. Again, as always, just post your questions up there in the chat. I'm going to do my best to get through them all for everybody. If you got, again, questions about anything macroeconomics or estate planning, wealth management, anything pertaining to the XRP ledger or digital assets in general, all is fair game. So we'll go ahead and hop into it and get started here. Mighty Toe, he says, do you have an option on Gemini Exchange? Their commission is less than 37.37%. They list XRP. Thanks. We've not talked to Gemini. Gemini was not in favor of XRP for the majority of its existence. It did not list that asset until after the lawsuit, and the XRP was given a designation by the judge as not a security. They had not listed it any time, even previous to the lawsuit being filed. The Winklevoss twins, are involved there. It's not something that I have looked into or really dealt with. Our preferred partners are Caleb and Brown, which do have a significantly higher fee, right? But you do have a broker that you can call there. Kraken, Uphold, Archax, and then we do have some other people that provide some bespoke services for TWAP and VWAP for our clients, and they source liquidity from multiple exchanges to it in order to be able to do that. So, and they all charge less than that fee. I think it's actually 20 basis points is what those other exchanges charge. So it's actually less than what you mentioned there. So anyway, happy to make introductions to people as needed if people want to reach out and want those people their information for those other exchanges I mentioned. We do have partners, and I'm happy to share their information with you if you just want to email us through digitalfamilyoffice.io. Victor Wong says, hey, Jake, I know you've talked about buying multifamily properties to generate cash flow to fund your lifestyle. Can you go into that deeper, looking to get some post liquidity in California? Yeah, absolutely. So it depends on what you want, right? And who you're going to partner with to manage the property. Most of the time, if you're looking for cash flow, you're going to need to go to secondary and tertiary markets. If you are participating in primary markets, there are circumstances where you can rezone a property and rebuild something there from the ground up. Or maybe there's an existing structure like a mall that you could repurpose into an apartment complex. I've seen both of those happen, and some cash flows be able to be generated that way while servicing the debt on the property. The majority of the time, you're going to be looking at secondary and tertiary markets. These are outside primary markets. So like a primary market would be downtown Dallas or downtown Austin for me here in Texas. We're going to be looking at suburbs or even a little bit further out. You're going to be looking for properties that need renovated, are growing. There's more people moving into those areas. Maybe they're a flat roof. They need a pitched roof. They need brought up to code. They need some slight renovations to spruce things up and justify the rents coming up on the properties. You want to look for a high occupancy rate. If something's already highly occupied, people tend to stay put even if rents are raised. And if you're getting north of like 92% occupancy, you're doing pretty good. You want to check the cap rate, cash on cash, IRR. If you don't have, here we go. Grant Cardone as a person, you can have your opinions about him, but he does understand real estate. This is a good book if you guys want a resource on it, especially just for general understanding of what cap rate is, what IRR is, how to value a property, and look at the debt and the financing. I think that this is a really good book on that. So it is How to Create Wealth Investing in Real Estate by Grant Cardone. I don't know if he even wrote it or if it was a ghostwriter, but it is good information in here. So that would be, my recommended reading for multifamily property investment. Again, you're going to want to look for things where there's opportunities in the market and you have the capability to raise rents and you're able to generate 12 or 13% returns on a yearly basis, just to be able to service the debt and then have some beyond that, especially with interest rates where they are. So hopefully that's enough context for you and a resource that you can use. But if you do have further questions about it, I'm happy to connect you with people in my network that are much smarter than me when it comes to all that. They've all been doing it for 25, 30 years. And that's who we partner with on the deals that we're looking at the majority of the time. I've just been able to pick up, a little bit here and there from them. And then also the resources that I've used when it comes to that. So Nate says, thoughts on investing in vaulted digital gold that earns profits. It's interesting. A digital gold company recently rebranded and is now promoting itself in Australia after securities fraud cease and desist from Texas. If I got that from Texas, I probably wouldn't be dealing with them. But I don't know if that's what you're saying here. Maybe I'm taking it out of context. We talked to Comtech in Dubai. They have the capability to, so they work with the DIFC and other people there. They hold the gold in vaults that's super secure. They get warrants issued against a kilo of gold, and then they will tokenize the warrant on chain on the XDC ledger. And, that's interesting to me. If you are able to earn yield off of the gold, I would want to understand how they're able to pay those profits. Is it a Ponzi scheme? I need to understand the underlying reason for the paying of the gold. So and I'll tell you a way that you can actually do this. You have to have a lot of gold to be able to do it, but you can loan it to countries to back their currency through bonds. I've seen some of these, and then they do pay you interest on your gold because it actually backs their currency and provides them the stability that they need. Families that do this have way more gold than you can imagine. And they're probably not some company that's tokenizing it on chain. So I would really just need to understand how they're generating the yield on that, and if they're not just rehypothecating other users' purchase on their platform. Probably, I'd need more context in order to give you an educated answer to that question. Let's see here. Here we go. CS2424 says, Jake, if you could only have one altcoin for ROI other than XRP, what would it be? Specifically for ROI, probably XLM. Yeah, like if I had to pick one other than XRP, it's probably because again, that's another one that I know is being adopted and will probably be used at scale for peer-to-peer payments. Hyperledger, a lot of the people that we talk to, they are using that infrastructure for either their private environment and allowing them to be interoperable with other people. It's used in enterprise applications. Maybe that or Hedera Hashgraph would probably be my two answers on that, just because of the people involved with them and the volume that I think will move across those networks long term. That's not tomorrow, but if I had to pick two for ROI, you didn't give me a time frame here, so we'll leave that out the window. But I think that those two probably have some of the most significant return on investment over the next decade. Let's see here. Alfredo, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, hola, Senor Jake from El Paso. Thanks for all that you do. So for the next year's bull run to liquidate fast and easy, you recommend Caleb Brown, Uphold, Kraken. Yeah. And again, we have contacts at all of those institutions. If you would like those, you're more than welcome to email us at info@digitalfamilyoffice.io. And we're happy to share those contacts with you for you to be able to set up institutional accounts and trade OTC. There are some qualifications to that. You need to be moving at least $250,000 across their platform on a quarterly basis. So, I don't think Kraken's that way. Kraken might cut you a little more slack than that, but Uphold, they definitely want some trading volume to be able to justify opening an account for you. Let's see here. CCO Calvin, what's up, brother? He says, hey, Jake, 3 questions, 2 about LLC and 1 personal. 1, now that my LLC is up and running, do we only have to fill out the last page of the operating agreement and get it notarized? There's some other components within the operating agreement template that we share with you that are the date, name, other people associated with the entity, their ownership, and then a few other components in there. But for the majority of it, yeah, what you're going to be writing is, the capital contributions on the back page there and getting that notarized. Question number 2 is, if I have a Chase, I'm assuming bank account, do I open a business account under my LLC? And 3, out of curiosity, what are your PRs on bench, squat, deadlift? Appreciate you and the team. Yeah, if you have a Chase account, if you already have a relationship with that bank, I don't think they're going to go anywhere. They have Onyx, JP Morgan does, and I think that they're going to be participating in the new financial system. They've got patents and partnerships that allude to that. I could be wrong. They could go out of business tomorrow, but they've got half the world's silver. So I don't think they're going anywhere as much as some people would like them to. But yeah, I would just go ahead and set up a business account with them if you already have a relationship and connect the exchange or wherever you're going to be liquidating a portion if you are going to do that. And then personal question, PRs on bench, squat and deadlift. So the most I ever did on bench press was incline. I did 325 for 15. Deadlift, like 600 for 10, I think, when I was at my biggest. And then squat, 405 for 27 was the most I ever did. So I know that's not like a one-time lift. I was never been a power lifter. I've always lifted in bodybuilding ranges. And so, I would just push the limits on weight and the volume for the lift. So I have no idea what my one-time maxes are. I probably wouldn't have ever had a 2,000 pound total. I know lots of people that do and did. So I've never been the strongest. I'm crazy. Maybe I'm a masochist. Like I can push through a lot of pain. And so that was always my forte, was, doing volume with crazy weights. Let's see here. Good questions, by the way. Thank you for that. Joe by one says, "Hey Jake, I have learned so much from your content. Thank you, brother. I'm glad that we're able to provide you value, and thank you for watching." He says, "Would it be possible," or she, I don't want to say one or the other. Would it be possible to not cash out any of your XRP, but instead borrow against it post liquidity event and purchase an IUL policy and pay zero tax?" You definitely could. I don't see the benefit of double borrowing like that, because now you got to service the debt on the XRP. And some people, okay, so I had this question the other day, and so I guess maybe there's some confusion around this. When you're borrowing against your XRP, I don't know that we don't have currently there is no way to take a line of credit against your XRP, like a HELOC or against a life insurance policy. Okay. The loans are shorter term, somewhere between 1 and 2 years max, most of the time even shorter than that. They'll only give you like 50% LTV against it currently. And that's at an 8% interest rate, 9% interest rate. And there you have a monthly payment that is due to cover the interest. It's interest only until the term comes due, and then you pay back the full amount, right? It's not like an IUL or some of these other insurance policies where it's collaterally backed and you can just draw down a line of credit. And if you don't pay, they take it from the collateral, right? They could liquidate your XRP, but I don't think you want them to do that. And so, and that's the other thing, actually, to qualify as a loan, there does need to be a repayment schedule listed in there. So, if at some point in the future you are issuing loans to yourself against your XRP, which I do think, we might have the capability to do, depending on, how the amendments go for 66, 65, and 64. But back to your question here, I don't know that I see the purpose of borrowing against the XRP and then putting that into an IUL. The IUL is something that you would borrow against, right? And provide yourself liquidity at a reasonable interest rate. I'm sure there's a circumstance where that makes sense, but it's not anything that I can think about at this time. If I'm going to take a loan against my XRP, I want to make sure that I'm putting it to work somewhere that's going to generate returns that can service the debt plus some, to be able to pay for my lifestyle. So just my thoughts, unless you're, so let me play out a scenario for you. Let's say you took a loan against 30% of your XRP, or maybe even, up to 40% of your XRP, and then you put the rest of it to work in some capacity that paid the interest on the note, right? But you're still going to have to pay back the lump sum at the end of it, unless you're able to service all of the debt and you're paying down the interest and the principal. And it's probably over a longer term if you're doing that. So anyway, all those things are considerations. when you're borrowing against an asset, you're going to be looking at the interest rate, the duration of the loan. Is it, interest only? Is it a balloon note? Like, there's a lot of different ways that you can structure the financing against that. And so I'm hoping that it's a tier one asset in the banking system and you do get really favorable terms because you have the leverage and people want it or need it. But to answer this one specifically, there isn't a circumstance I could think of where that would actually make sense. Maybe you're offsetting capital gains in your LLC. So your LLC owns the XRP, it borrows against it, and then purchases a life insurance policy for a key employee, and you're able to offset the tax implications and then draw down the debt against it to repay the loan. But then you're just shuffling debt around and paying interest for no reason. Anyway, good question. Good thought experiment. Hopefully that was valuable for you as to why you probably wouldn't do that. But it would be zero tax because it is a loan against your assets. Let's see here. Hello, is it true that when Ripple IPOs, our current XRP crypto will be converted to shares? No, that's not how this works at all. XRP is not a security of Ripple. It's completely separate. It's an asset that settles value on a blockchain. Ripple has equity that they've sold for their company, completely separate of anything to do with the digital asset XRP. So no, Ripple's IPO will have zero impact on your XRP converting into shares. That's not, I'm not sure where you got that from, but that's definitely wrong. Atlantic Living, always good to see you. Appreciate you hopping on here. He says, or she says, I don't know which, is there anything at all that you do not care for about XRP's technology? Or maybe a better question, is there anything you would do differently about the company's direction regarding XRP? Again, Ripple is completely separate of XRP. The success of XRP obviously helps them because they have a large amount of it on their books, and they do want the success of the asset, but the company's direction is in direct correlation with what they believe is best for XRP long term, because it benefits them. So is there anything within the technology that I don't necessarily favor? There's some attributes about XRP that are good and bad. So again, it's agnostic. It can't be frozen. There's no counterparty risk. You can't claw it back. I don't know if you've ever sent your XRP somewhere you didn't mean to. I've got clients that have sent it places that they didn't mean to, and they sure wish that they could claw it back or freeze it somehow or get it back. So that's a downside to this, right? Like when you send it, it's gone. There's no recourse. There's no way to get it back. But that's also the reason that, it's trustless and countries would adopt it, because there is no centralized party that really controls the XRP. So therefore, if you wanted to send a transaction to somebody, you can move value within your own ecosystem, and settle transactions if you had multiple parties within a country completely separate of the rest of the world. So I guess that's like a good and bad point. I'm waiting for a subnet that's implicit or explicit to the network that allows for it to scale to 30 or 50,000 TPS, or a lot of the stuff that's been promised or people want to happen for the adoption by Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and all of these other large players, SWIFT included. They need significantly more volume to be able to be processed per second on the mainnet for it to actually be scalable. I thought Cobalt might be able to do that. Apparently, that's not being developed, or it's, shelved or whatever. I think that you need a solution like that to allow for the actual scalability of the XRPL and the mainnet. The side chains could also allow for that. You could batch transactions on side chains. You would still need a significant number of validators on those side chains in order to be able to facilitate 500 to 1,000 TPS there, and then be able to match that to the main net to be able to scale it. So there's a few things that I think are problems with the current infrastructure that need fixed in order for it to be adopted in the manner that I'm hopeful for. And I appreciate there's people out on the internet that brought those things to my attention, and so I've tried to educate myself on that. But aside from that, like I said, there's some things that aren't necessarily a benefit to me, but as a whole for the adoption of the network, they are. And then, again, the company is completely separate of the asset. Obviously, it benefits them if this does well, but it also benefits them to continue to aggregate more XRP until price does appreciate or it's needed. So as an example, like they use ODL, okay? They send XRP to Uphold. Let's say they send it to them at 60 cents is when they issue the loan to a bank. Uphold swaps that for whatever currency the bank wants. They make the loan. It's a week-long deal. At the end of the week, XRP is 50 cents, okay? The bank repays the loan with the interest. Uphold converts that back to XRP, and they send it back to Ripple. Now what? Well, Ripple just ended up with like 12.5% more XRP than they had when they started the transaction because the value of it went down during the time frame that it was loaned out. Stuff like that, like if I'm Ripple, then that's great because I'm aggregating more XRP off the open market, especially if I do think it is going to appreciate. So I think, I think Ripple's doing a great job. We own equity in Ripple, and I think that's going to do really well along with the asset long term. I'm going to try to start moving a little bit faster through questions because if I don't, we're not going to get through them all. Let's see here. Trade like a pro. Hey, appreciate you, brother. Good. Glad to see another East Texan on here. Let's see here. I'm gonna look for some questions that have a lot of context around them, just so that I can give some valuable insight to things. If I don't have enough context in the question, it's difficult, and I'll probably just say it depends, right? Like I have with the last 3 or 4 here, and so you're gonna get this long spiel of why it depends. So I'm gonna try to find some things that have some good context around them, so I can really narrow down and provide some value for you guys. Brandon Rockdead, hey brother. He says, just signed up for the LLC. Should I add a second owner like my wife, even though she has no knowledge or experience with digital assets? If so, what percentage of ownership makes sense? That's up to you. And whatever makes sense in your relationship. You don't have to give her any. You just want to make sure that she is listed in the document somewhere as a beneficiary or a representative, or she's going to be able to get access to the shares, the equity in the LLC if you were to pass away, God forbid. If she is on the cap table, if she does own a percentage within the company, and you utilize the partnership template or the multi-member agreement that we share with people, then that does have a clause in there that allows transfer of interest upon death. Again, it's morbid. I'm sorry I'm having to discuss it, but these are considerations when you're putting this stuff together. So that would be the main concern, right? If you are going to list a spouse or a significant other in the documentation, you want to make sure that they are listed in some capacity where they do receive the ownership of the shares in that event. So I've seen people do as little as 1%. I've seen people do 50-50, If she has no knowledge of them, that's going to be difficult. We do provide institutional custody for our clients at Digital Ascension Group through the family office and our wealth management service there with PolySign and standard custody. So if you do have over $100,000 in digital assets, so currently I guess that'd be around 200,000 XRP, but it doesn't have to exclusively be XRP. I just want to make that caveat here. It can be Bitcoin, Ethereum, Avalanche, Solana, Matic, XRP, obviously, Chainlink, Graph, and then I think there's a bunch of DeFi protocols. There's 31 different assets that they allow us to custody. So if the total amount of those assets is above the $100,000 threshold, we can custody those assets in institutional custody for you and provide you up to $50 million worth of insurance on your assets. We list beneficiaries. You can add her as a signer to your account through that. If you do want to, you wanted to add your wife or your spouse. And then, she's on there. Again, God forbid something happened to you. She's listed. We make sure that that's taken care of. And we have things set up so that she doesn't have to really understand anything about, all the ways that we custody our assets in a cold storage wallet and the keys and the complexity that is that. And that's why I think a lot of people, will probably flock to institutional custody over the next couple years here, as you do have that possibility with investment banks and other providers in the space like ourselves. So, and then you're always going to have the diehard people that it's not your keys, not your crypto. I will say that, standard custody and the protocol that we use there, they are your keys. They're on a proprietary blockchain. They're sharded and held across HSMs, and they only come back together when you sign the transaction with your YubiKey, your likeness in a video, and your passwords. And then we're the other signature on that to be able to help you, execute a transaction. So they're still completely your keys. We only try to execute a transaction that you've authorized. We just fulfill what the client asked for. So anyway, love to have that discussion if that's something that makes sense for you. Since you do have your assets in an LLC now, that is the one other qualification that we do require. Well, the custodian we work with requires is the assets are held in an LLC or trust in order to be able to participate in that offering. So hopefully that was valuable. Let's see. Mr. Z, this is an interesting question, so I'll pick it up here. He says, when XRP moons, we all want it to, and we take monthly interest payments, e.g. through staking. It won't be through staking. It'll be through some other means. It'll be delegating to the liquidity pool, or you'll be, participating, like I said, in an AMM, or you're borrowing against it, or you're putting it into a pool to earn interest on it. Have you heard if it is possible to take payments in gold or silver? Not that I'm aware of. Given whatever the protocol pays out for interest, might be tokenized gold or silver in the future. There might be a firm that allows for that, through a DEX or something else. As long as it's an issued asset on the XRPL, there might be a capability for that. I don't know that it'll be, just a standard deal, but if you wanted to take that instead of fiat, you'll probably be capable of doing so. Pax Gold, is something that I think will probably be around and respected in the space for a long time. Most of the providers that we've talked to that are dealing with stable coins deal with the Pax Dollar, USDC, and Pax Gold. So appreciate all the likes there on Twitter. If you're getting value from this, if you think it's good, give us a thumbs up, share it with somebody. Trying to help as many people as we can. So here's a good one. Lori says, Simon from Uphold says, you can pay your bills and get a card to use in stores, earn 5% yield on your XRP, hold your crypto safely and insured up to 2.5 million. Seriously, why would you use a bank? I mean, I had a conversation with Visa earlier today about issuing cards and against your crypto. Them and MasterCard both have that capability. MasterCard's been who they've used in the past, and so is Digital ID. They both use MasterCard. I haven't seen as many people adopt Visa in that capacity. Depending on how much XRP you have, 2.5 million is probably not going to cut it for some people. My clients, it won't. And 5%. From what I understand, and I could be wrong about this, so take it with a grain of salt. That's not available to U.S. clients. That's only people abroad or international that can earn the interest on their XRP if they're holding it with Uphold. But that makes sense, right? Because they are participating with Ripple through ODL, and if they are loaning out your XRP, which you're putting in the omnibus account, you don't have a segregated vault with them. You're not going to get visibility on your XRP if they lose it, if they go under, if there are other problems. Yeah, you're insured up to 2.5 million, but that's in dollars. It's not XRP. So anyway, those are all considerations around that. I'm not saying it's not a good deal. It definitely is a good deal if you're willing to put that amount of value up. That's probably all I would leave on their platform and use in a checking account to earn 5% interest on. The rest of it, I would hold in institutional custody. And a lot of these exchanges, so Uphold is not a bank. They partner with a lot of banks to be able to provide payment services to be able to swap between currencies. They are a great provider in the space. I think their security is much better than it used to be at this point, but they are not completely secure in all ways, right? I have clients that one of my clients lost $300,000 off of their platform through somebody that spoofed them. They have upped their security since then, specifically over that incident. But there's a possibility that they get acquired by a bank. I think a lot of these exchanges, there's an act that I think that they could put through Congress that would make it basically impossible for exchanges to exist, and they would basically get bought up by banks almost overnight. So we'll see if that actually transpires or not. Uphold, again, is not domestic to the U.S. They're in the U.K. And so, again, to my knowledge, they don't offer the 5% yield here. I could be wrong about that. Let me know in the comments if I am. But it's a great offering. But I think there'll be other players in the space that offer you something similar in the future. Get on down here a little bit. Back through these. Let's see here. Hey, Lewis. It's good to see you, brother. Teddy Air. Brandon. This is a good one. Jim Boone says, good evening, Jake. What's your opinion of Uphold's Vault versus Decent Wallet? By the way, I appreciate all the hard work that you do. Thank you, brother. I appreciate the kind words. Like I said, just trying to help as many people as we can, navigate what's going on and get you to think a little bit, about the future and make sure that you're positioning yourself well for what's coming. Uphold's Vault versus Decent Wallet. So Uphold does provide a vault solution. I got to talk to Simon about that. It is a good solution, right? It's a really good solution for them because they did have a lot of people that just held XRP that were holding it on their exchange and actually just costing them money year over year because they weren't trading. They were just using it as a wallet. So if you know it or not, just supporting the infrastructure that they have costs them, double digits per year just to service the KYC, keep the account open, and do all the other things that they have to do for compliance. And if you're not trading on the platform, there's no compensation to recoup that. So they introduced Vault as a good solution to be able to generate income for themselves and turn a cost into a profit stream on a monthly reoccurring basis, which I think was genius on their move. And they do provide that third key for you. So they can regenerate the other keys, but they cannot transact on your behalf. So I don't know if you're listing beneficiaries or other things with them. You're probably, your family's still going to have some education on digital assets and how to move them or use them, sell them, do that other stuff. But that's the same thing with Decent Wallet, right? And it's got the biometric. That would be the other benefit of Decent over the Vault. would be that capacity. I like the UI on Decent's wallet better than Uphold, and their vault solution. Decent also has the capability to hold almost all the digital assets that you might have, whereas Uphold's vault, I think, is limited to just Bitcoin and XRP at this point. I don't even know if they've rolled out the Bitcoin. So anyway, pros and cons to both. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I think they both have their place. But I'll let you decide based on what I've discussed there, which one's better for you. Let's see. CJ, you can't mention anything about digital assets when you go in there to apply for it. I don't know the circumstance. I don't know what you said or didn't say, but you cannot say anything about digital assets when you go to apply for a bank account at any financial institution. They will deny you. So maybe I'll walk you through it. Like people that do an LLC with us, you get a video on how to approach a bank and like make sure that you get your account approved. That's another value add that we provide, when you work with us for the LLC. But as an example, I'll just walk you through. So if you're going to go to Bank of America, when you go in there, they're going to run KYC on you. They're going to ask for your operating agreement. I would remove the capital contributions page from your operating agreement before you give it to them, so that obviously there's no digital assets in there. There's going to be language in the operating agreement that we provide people that obviously shows that you're dealing with digital assets, but they don't read it. They just look at it and make sure that your name's on it and that it's filed, right? So you're going to give them the EIN, articles of incorporation. Most of the time they will ask you for a letter of good standing, so you can get that from the state or your attorney. Pretty easy to do. And then you're going to say that this is a holding company to be able to take profits for your investments. Don't say any more. Don't tell them what type of investments. Tell them you've made some larger investments in multiple verticals, and you should have some of those pay out over the next 12 months. And you're looking to set up a bank account where you can take large sums of capital when that happens. They're not going to like berate you and ask you what the investments are or any of that stuff. You say, well, I play that stuff close to the chest. Private equity, real estate, different things, and leave it at that. Don't be a little bit mysterious when you're in there, but give them enough information to make them feel comfortable, right? And in doing that, they'll set the account up for you. You fund it with whatever your initial balance is. Especially if you go into a branch, you really shouldn't have any problem. Most of the time when I've been in there, they ask me what I do, and inevitably the conversation ends up around digital assets. And maybe you just got a banker on a bad day. I don't know. But that's normally how I navigate those conversations. And so hopefully that provides you some benefit the next time you do approach somebody in a different bank, because I wouldn't go back to Bank of America at this point. Probably go to Wells Fargo or Chase, which would also have branches in Wyoming and would be able to set things up very easily if that is where you registered your LLC. Let's see here. Scroll on down. Hey, appreciate the super chat here from Poloni65. They say, if I use a HELOC and buy a monster amount of XRP at 51 cents up to $1, double of purchase price, then sell 50% to cover my borrowed funds, and then wait till it moons, would you do that if you were able to? I cannot give you financial advice, brother. I really appreciate the super chat, but I cannot tell you what to do or not to do. I don't know that XRP doesn't go to 25 cents tomorrow. Okay. I think we've bottomed. I hope we've bottomed, but like Brad pointed out, Tether and that whole deal, we could see some significant downturn in the market before we do get, what we're hoping for. So I don't want you to get liquidated or be put in a position where, I'll just say it this way. I would not risk anything that you cannot cover comfortably on a loan. Okay. So if you can't service the debt comfortably, the XRP is not going to be income producing for whatever period of time, right? And so you're making a bet that we're going to appreciate from here in the short term to be able to, pay that back. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't think you do either. I don't know anybody that does. So this is not anything that I would ever recommend to somebody. I will speak to what I have done though. And I've leveraged other assets to purchase XRP at different times over the last 4 years. I'll leave it at that. I've paid all those off. I don't have any problems, but there were points where that was not. It was stressful, and so quality of life matters, is what I will say. And you make your choices, right? I can't tell you what to do or not to do. Your scenario that you've pointed out here would absolutely work if you could service the debt in the meantime. Is it the best use of your funds? I can't tell you what to do. This is where I'm going to leave it at. Thank you for the question, though. Let's see here. We got another one. Jack has done a super chat for $5. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you being here. I hope you and your sister are doing well. I have to catch up with you guys here soon. 3D or J3DYR has said, as a Puerto Rican planning to move to Texas, from Texas to Puerto Rico, once my investments reach a point where I can achieve financial freedom, would it still be advisable to establish an LLC in the U.S.? Yeah, Puerto Rico is it's a territory of the U.S. You could definitely have an LLC in Wyoming and operate from Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico does have a flat 4% tax. You can't vote if you live there. You do have to reside there for at least 6 months out of the year in order to be able to hold that tax bracket and not, deal with the rest of the stuff that the rest of Americans have to deal with. It has become very expensive to live in Puerto Rico because of the tax benefit. We actually had a call earlier today with a trust bank that's in Puerto Rico. So we're definitely looking at that. We do have clients that reside there. I have friends that reside there. So, I think it's a good place to be. The infrastructure is not so great. So you definitely want to have backup generators and other things in place because there are periods of time where the power's out on the island because the taxes are so low there. Infrastructure is not kept up very well. So give and take with all these things, right? But yeah, it definitely would be fine in order if you set up an LLC or a trust in Wyoming and then move to Puerto Rico. Again, it's a U.S. territory, so no issues. This is a good question because I've seen other people talk about this, so I will address it here. Sean E. Montana has asked, do you still see a settlement on the table for Ripple versus the SEC? I personally don't. I think if Ripple was going to settle, they would have done that a long time ago. I'm pretty confident that they had opportunities to do that and didn't take those settlement offers from the SEC. Brad alluded to that the other day in his interview that him and Chris both had settlement offers that they didn't take. And I think that Ripple probably has as well. If they're going to fight this long and spend this much money, I think that they want a ruling from the judge, and really they're at the point where that's going to be issued. So I don't see any benefit to Ripple in taking a settlement at this point. It would also deprive the rest of the industry that they've fought for from receiving any type of guidance or precedent on how a firm should come to market with a digital asset, which is, I think, the whole premise behind the lawsuit in general and why Ripple's fought so long. So, no, I do not see any chance, and I could be wrong. Again, I don't know everything. But from what I can see, I don't think that a settlement is likely at all, and I think that we're waiting for a final ruling from the judge, and that is exactly what Ripple wants, so that there is at least some precedent and clarity at the court level, even if it doesn't come from Congress, around how projects should come to market. And then that would provide at least some precedent for other firms to fight against the SEC. Or the other piece that most people aren't thinking about, justification for the SEC to come after other firms that they've let through the gate, wink, wink, Ethereum, and overturn their previous thoughts on things, and give justification for why it actually is a security and they were wrong, along with the other projects that they probably will go after as well. And if they have precedent that they're going to use in those cases, it's unlikely that they would appeal that to a higher court as well. So I don't think that that's likely either. I think once we get a ruling on this case with Ripple and the SEC, Ripple has the freedom to be able to operate at scale here in the U.S. And they would still need to, get a VASP here in the U.S. to be able to utilize XRP as a settlement asset for their transactions. A lot of good questions. Appreciate you guys on this. Let's see here. This is a good one. You know of any good accountants in Australia? I've spoke to 5 already, and they're clueless around taxes and regulations for crypto. Yeah, actually, we have an estate planner there that deals with crypto funds, and he has connections in his network that he could provide you for taxation around digital assets there. So, John, what's his last name? Basilis, but I don't know. Email me, and I'll find it and send it over to you, and you can make a connection with him. They do set up trusts for very reasonable prices there in Australia. That is something else that most of the time would be beneficial for anybody that holds assets there. I know that there's taxes involved with moving those assets into a trust now, but they're going to be far less than post-liquidity event. So just something to consider. Man, already been on an hour. Good stuff. I'm just going to, and I'm not poking fun at this person. So this is the type of question that I have no context around, right? So they've asked me, what is a good bag size that can set you financially free? I have no clue what you need to live, what your lifestyle is, what you want to accomplish, where you live. Like there's just so many things within the scope of that question that don't allow me to answer that in a very fair way to you. And I also can't give financial advice. So it's not a good question. If you are going to ask stuff similar to this, provide some context around it so that I can give you, at least a generalization that is beneficial aside from just blathering on and in general nonsense. Let's see here. This is interesting. So John L says we should set up a contest to see who can get the date for the XRP hits $100, costs $1 to make a choice, and all the money goes to the winner. That is gambling, and you need a bookie for that. I won't participate in that, but you guys can definitely gamble away and guess at the dates. I'm more focused on events. The only thing at this point that I am looking for is oil to spike in the yen. I shared a chart specifically with the Mastermind earlier today on this topic. All of the other dominoes that I mentioned before, Japan, Tether, all of these other things, I think the spike in oil precedes those and is the domino that kicks Japan over. So that's what I'm waiting for. And so for you to be able to pick that date out of a hat, good luck. This is interesting. He says, does your company handle the creation of a checkbook Roth IRA? Not familiar with a checkbook Roth. We can definitely do a Roth IRA. We can do an IRA trust or LLC. We can do a Roth IRA trust or LLC. But a checkbook RIA is not something that I'm familiar with. We can get you the loans. We actually can't take loans against assets in an IRA. If you're able to produce income with it and it goes into a side account, you can take loans against that. But qualified assets themselves in an IRA, you have a difficult time taking loans against. So I need a little bit, and maybe this is just my ignorance, which is quite possible. Checkbook IRA is something I'll have to look into, and I could come back. But the rest of those that I mentioned, we do have the capability to provide through Digital Wealth Partners. Let's see here. A lot of people upset with how long things are taking, and I can understand that. Right, good things take time, and the more time it takes, the better amount that you can aggregate. Here's a good one. XRP Pappy says, is it possible that large banks such as JP Morgan with their Onyx platform are leveraging their own blockchains and subnets to handle transactions, thereby naturally increasing the number of TPS? Yeah. So again, I mentioned before, if you had side chains that were interoperable with the main net, we're looking for XLS 38D to pass, that and digital identity, which is XLS 40. Both have 12 votes right now. I think they're waiting for the next upgrade on the ledger. And then you got to wait for the validators and nodes on the network to upgrade as well to the new software. And then at that point, I think that they'll begin voting on those and hopefully get them over the threshold to be able to push those to the main net. But yeah, that's, that was definitely one of the scenarios that I pointed out was if you did have that and the throughput would be scalable because you'd be able to batch transactions from the side chains and add those to the main net, and you could settle those, transactions within siloed ecosystems. So like as an example, JP Morgan, this bank could send their money to another JP Morgan intrabank. But in order to be interoperable with other banks, they would need to be able to tie into the main net or a public blockchain to be able to transact with Wells Fargo, Citi, Bank of America, and send payments between each of those outside of their siloed ecosystems. So it would provide a way that was scalable for the TPS. But again, I don't even, they probably have at least 500 to 1,000 transactions per second between their locations. So I still think that there needs to be some type of, you mentioned subnet here. I'm sure that this will come to a public light. I'm sure that they've developed it. I just don't know what it is if it's not Cobalt. So, Leslie says, hey, Jake, are you going to branch out to Australia or do financial regulations make it too difficult? Leslie, Australia is the most financially stringent jurisdiction on the planet. It would take us some time to spin up a firm there and some capital. That is a jurisdiction that we would like to venture into. We do have partners in that jurisdiction that already operate there and do have competencies with digital assets that we refer people out to. So that's probably how it'll stay unless, if people do want to work directly with Digital Ascension Group and that's like they're adamant for that, then that is definitely something that we will look into. If we're able to partner with other custodians, so Hex Trust, Cominu, and Archax are all people that have licenses in other jurisdictions that we've had conversations with. And, it's quite possible that we might partner with them in some of those jurisdictions to be able to provide institutional custody to our clients. We do have clients in Australia that we currently service and provide custody for here in the U.S. So, I would love to operate out there and provide financial advice and the other scope of services that we have. Kent is, I won't say Kent's last name, but he's a good friend of ours, and he's very familiar with the regulations there in Australia. He's got the attorneys and the contacts that could help us do it if we wanted to. And he also has good relationships with a lot of the family offices out there. So if we did, we would probably lean on him, and it's likely I'd have to fly out there and spend some time to get things established. So definitely something we're looking into. I don't think that they would be too difficult, but obviously, we would make sure that everything was above board and met the compliance that is required if we did pursue that opportunity. Here's one. Brennan, thank you, brother. He says, love what you're doing. Does your family office provide a checklist or flow chart on how to navigate each person's situation with an LLC or trust as a basic start point? Happy to pay for such a thing. We have, everybody's situation is different. I did do some videos a little while back on the YouTube channel. If you want to go check them out, there were 3 videos on, LLCs and like different avatars that we've encountered. I just took some variables and put them up on the whiteboard over there and went through, if this person lives here and they have this income and they're married or they're single or they're this age, this is their risk tolerance, some of the questions that we have on the intake form. And then I walk through, why or why not they might pick different options when establishing different things for their estate now versus later. So hopefully those 3 videos could provide you with some clarity around that. We do have, kind of a makeshift decision tree that we do utilize with our advisors. And so, if I can create a graphic for that, I think that would be beneficial for people, but it's not something that we have at this time. If you are interested, you can always book an appointment with us. It's digitalfamilyoffice.io, and you can book an appointment with myself or one of our team members, and we're happy to walk you through, your situation and what would be best in the short term and the long term for your family. Let's see here. Johnny, I've mentioned this before. I appreciate you asking this question. Anybody that's new here, if you wouldn't mind, just subscribe, if you think this is valuable for you, we do appreciate it. He's asked, would you rather have precious metals or digital assets? So I have both. I have my emergency fund in metals. So 6 months worth of expenses I hold in precious metals. And that's my hedge, right? If we do see, a complete currency collapse, I've got, and this is, I think, the S&P and gold and silver are very good at maintaining your purchasing power. That's why I would buy them. I would never buy them to make money. Obviously, people do overreact. And in those situations, there is real ROI on metals and equities. And sometimes they also overreact the other direction and buy and sell emotionally. Metals are money. They should provide a stability for you and know that you're locking in the purchasing power when you purchase them. So that's why I have my emergency fund in them. It makes it a little bit difficult to get to, and I have to really think about it if I am going to use it and go cash it in. Obviously, there's a little bit of exchange costs there back to fiat to be able to use it. So that's what I like to use metals for. They're not an investment, in my opinion. They're more of a hedge against a collapsing fiat system. And there won't be, again, if they do revalue it, there won't be a real ROI on the metals. They'll be pegged, and then they'll shore up currencies, and you'll be able to exchange them at whatever rate they have for the currency, and it should be able to provide the same value for you at that point as when you bought it. Digital assets, you'll definitely have real ROI on because right now it's complete speculation. There is no utility. People don't understand the real value of these assets. They don't currently trade at the real value of the assets if they were used in use cases like we're hoping for. And so that's where the ROI comes from, is the actual implementation and usage of the digital assets. And that will be a real ROI, even if there is a revaluation of currencies, because the value of them is currently just speculative. When they are used at scale, they will be at a significantly higher price based on the value that they're having to move, and therefore have an actual appreciation in comparison to the value of other assets. So it's just my 2 cents. I own both. One's as a hedge, and it's for my emergency fund. The other one is for actual investment and long-term wealth or appreciation. Mark, he says, I've been trying to convince my dad to invest in XRP. He does have investing experience, but he's a bit scared of crypto. What are some key points I could say to him? My dad did buy some crypto before he passed away in 21. Finally, after me beating him, beating it into his head that it was a good idea. And he was a traditional investor. Again, he always told me to put my money in the S&P 500. He wasn't as educated when it came to money. I grew up, upper middle class. I was really blessed growing up. I really didn't have a hardship. Anyway, I digress. But if you're talking to him, I would relate it to something that he can understand and why it would be of a benefit or why it would have value. Because that's the hard part for most people that are a bit older. And I'm not dogging anybody that's older that's watching. A lot of people that are on here that are older have already figured this out. So I applaud you, because the majority of the people in that demographic have a little bit harder time. Hell, I mean, there's even people my age that have a hard time with it. So it's not just an age thing. But they want something tangible, right? There's a lot of people that are like, okay, well, why is it valuable? I can understand real estate. I can touch that. Gold and silver, I can touch that. Stocks are a representation of companies that produce profit. I get that. Why would this asset, like, it's just this funny internet money, be worth anything? I always go back. The two things that I give people are, all those people were around for the internet boom. And they all most of them use a payment app of some kind. So those are the two things I use. The first one's always the payment app. I don't even ask them about investing in digital assets. If they ask me, this is where I go. I direct the conversation. I'll ask them, do you use PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Wise, whatever payment app? And inevitably they'll say, yeah, I've used Venmo once or whatever. And I'm like, in the app, when you wanted to send that to your bank account, you get two options. One is instant for a fee, and the other one is free, but you have to wait 2 or 3 days, right? And they'll nod along. They say, yeah. And I say, okay, well, what if you could have it instant for free? Well, they were like, well, yeah, I would do that. That's what digital assets do. And then it clicks for them. They're, oh, okay, that's okay. I can understand why that would have value. If you move this from here to there instantly and it didn't cost me anything, that's a benefit. People would use that, right? And then the second thing, like I said, they went through the .com boom. So there was like a newscast where they talked about email. And they were like, what is this @ symbol? And what is email? Not everybody uses email, right? But at the time, everybody mailed stuff or they faxed things. And so for people back then, they were like, why would I use that over these other things? Well, now, I mean, I'm looking at it. I've had over 200 emails today, right? Everybody emails all the time because it's fast and free. Whereas before, when you use the postal service, which this person, your father, likely sent letters or other postage when they were younger, and they paid for stamps and they had to wait 2 or 3 days to get whatever it was. And so I'm like, these digital assets do to postage what email did, right? So they remove the frictions within the banking system and they create efficiencies and reduce costs. And normally, and like when I present it to people that way, they're like, okay, I see why this would have value. I see why people would use it. And then it's supply and demand, right? So you say there's a fixed supply. The more volume that this gets over time, just like email's volume increased over time. And the other thing I mentioned is, imagine how many letters used to be sent via the post office, right? Let's say you were a letter sending son of a gun, all right? And you're sending 10 letters a day to people to communicate, right? Or faxes. How many emails do you send a day? Probably 10 times that much, right? So just think about the amount of payments that's going to be sent through these networks at scale when the frictions are removed and the costs are reduced. You're going to get like a 10x in the volume of payments, right? So just imagine that volume now being moved around by this digital asset, right? And that's what this is. It's a protocol. All of these are protocols. The assets really don't have any value. They're just what moves the packets of data or the information or the value on the network. And in order to do that, they have to have enough liquidity in them to be able to serve that purpose. And so therefore the price of them has to escalate to meet the needs on the network. So you could probably give your dad a condensed version of that, but hopefully that provides, an understanding for him of why this magical internet money would have any value later on. Okay. So they say it's coming in Q3. All right. Well, that tells me that we probably have regulations here in the US by Q3. Simon's not dumb. Simon's very well connected. I had the pleasure of sitting down last year with him and having some whiskey at the XDC event. So yeah, that's my anticipation. We're probably going to have some type of regulation on stable coins and the capability to earn interest if they're telling US clients that that's going to be available in Q3 this year, which is good. That means we might see some price appreciation also. This is reasonable. Cornell has asked, what's your opinion on crypto market? Would you expect to crash just prior to the election and skyrocket afterwards? We need a crash in order for the rates. They've already stated that they're going to, right? They need a justification for that. So I think that if we do have a crash, it's likely going to be earlier in the year than later in the year. Possibly sometime this summer would be my guess if I was going to make one. And again, don't know, have a crystal ball. It could be way off. It could be exactly how you say there that it plays out. But that's my guess. Appreciate you on the super chat here, Will. He said, head of Velo, Jed McCaleb is a special advisor. Well, it's on Stellar's network, so that makes sense that he would be involved with it or could be involved with it in some capacity. Stronghold, I've done a breakdown of that project as well here on the channel if that's something you guys are interested in, going back and reviewing. There are definitely going to be layer 2 protocols on Hyperledger and the XRPL that provide benefits in some capacity to retail and to institutions. And, there's likely some more volume that'll move to those ecosystems. And because of that, some price appreciation on the assets that are used to move value in them. Let's see here. Jay Henry says, I paid for the Mastermind. Is there an app that I need to download to get access to the membership perks? And can an S Corp give me more tax benefits than an LLC in California? Yeah, you're going to want to download Discord, DISCORD. That's where we have, all of our content, the weekly town halls, the ability to communicate with other Mastermind members, and where we make all the announcements. We do have some resources on the site in the members area, but the majority of the value, I would say, is in the Discord channel. So if you want to email us at info@beyondbroke.com, we can help you out that way as well. Would an S Corp give me more tax benefits than an LLC in California? I mean, you're still going to be taxed at the corporate level. An LLC can elect to be taxed as an S Corp. An S Corp cannot be owned by a trust or an LLC later on. So that would prevent, thank you to Jay Henry sponsoring a membership for somebody. Appreciate you gifting that, brother. He says, Yeah, so there's some considerations around an S corp. There are certain situations where an S corp makes sense for this purpose, for the holding company, for your digital assets. I would register it in Wyoming. You are going to have to register that with California when it does produce any income in Wyoming, and state that you do have a virtual office there. So I would get a virtual office in Wyoming, which we can provide you with if you use our service. And you can elect to be taxed as an S corp and have pass-through taxation. There are some qualifiers around that. So if the LLC or the company is producing income, you're going to need to pay yourself a reasonable salary in the eyes of the IRS, and that's going to be somewhere between $50,000 and $70,000 a year. And that's a W-2 check, right? So you're going to owe the extra 13.5% taxes for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and you are going to have to pay the state tax to your personal self on those taxes. But anything beyond that can be paid as distributions or kept in the LLC and spent from there. And so you can mitigate tax obligations that way. And the rest of that's going to be taxed unless it's paid to you in Wyoming. So anyway, hopefully that's valuable for you. If you do want CPAs that are proficient with digital assets, I have one in Arizona, and I have another one. I don't know where Anthony is. He was down in South America for a while, and he hasn't been as responsive lately. So I'd probably send you over to Byron. So if you're looking for a CPA and you have some tax questions, he would be able to help you, and happy to share his information. Let's see. Uphold is not out of California, and it is not U.S. based. They're based out of the UK, and Simon's from the UK. I get Zach just had him on his channel, which is great, but they may have an office in California, but the home office for them is in the UK. Philip. Let's see here. Lots of people here in the chat. Again, appreciate you guys coming in on a Monday night. I know y'all could be doing lots of other stuff, and you're spending some time with me. Hopefully, this is valuable for you. If you do find some value from it, please like, subscribe. It does help the channel grow. And if you think it's worth somebody else listening to it, please share it with them. Let's see here. Jim says, may I recommend you view Zach Rector's interview with Simon? By the way, thank you for the answer. Appreciate it. Absolutely. I have to go check out the interview. I haven't watched it. I did see that he interviewed him. I could probably have him on if I wanted to. I haven't reached out to him. But they exciting news with ODL and their partnership with Ripple. A little over, I guess it was, so they signed that deal on August 28th, but it didn't become public till like October-ish last year. Here we go. I guess this is Chris. Chris, I appreciate you, brother. We're glad to have you in the mastermind, and I was excited to be able to send you the R3 coffee cup. Hopefully you're getting some use out of it. I think it's pretty cool. So that is something we did for our mastermind group. We did send it out. We have a bunch of these for the next event for people, but we did have 2 cups that were given to us by R3, and so I wanted to give back to the community, and we ran a raffle and did show some appreciation, gave a couple mastermind members, R3 coffee cups. So he said his wife has no idea why he's so excited about a coffee cup, which I think is cool. Let's see here. This one's good. CJ says, could or should I put my 401k under the LLC formed in Wyoming, also prior to XRP's big boom? Love your show, brother. Thank you for the kind words again. You could designate the LLC as the beneficiary of the 401k. You can set up a self-directed 401k for the LLC, but you can't roll your existing 401k from an employer under the LLC. Like I said, you could make the LLC the beneficiary, though. Once you leave an employer, you do have the capability to roll your 401k into an IRA, which, I've done in the past. Other clients we've worked with, we've been able to do that for. And then inside of an IRA, you can own digital assets. There's not a way that I'm aware of that you can buy XRP inside of a 401k, unless you had access to the ETP that's in Europe, that's currently traded, that's XRP related. So, not quite sure what you meant by that, but if you have an IRA, you can own XRP in that, and you can work with iTrust Capital or Bitcoin IRA, and that also is something that we are looking to provide our clients within the next couple months here through Digital Wealth Partners. So happy to have a discussion with you around that. If that is something you're interested in, you can go ahead and book a time. You can go to digitalwealthpartners.net and book a time with Mikkel or one of our other advisors. Let's see here. This is awesome. Scotty J, he says, I know a 16-year-old that has about 6,000 XRP. If they hold and never sell, they will have a fortune when they get older. I mean, problem is the never selling part, right? Especially as a 16-year-old. And I think for even the majority of people, doesn't matter what age you are, if you see 7-8 figures in a wallet, you're going to have all kinds of feels. I'll just tell you. And it's, you never go broke taking profit. I'll just say that. Ideally, you have it inside of an LLC and you're able to use that capital to purchase assets that cash flow, and you can use the depreciation to offset the tax implications with. We talked about a lot of that here. A 16-year-old probably doesn't have the financial education to manage or the emotional maturity to manage. If that went to $1,000 a piece, he's got, $6 million. I don't know that I would wish that on a 16-year-old, to be honest with you, especially if they didn't have somebody that was close to them that had dealt with large sums of money before. That's a lot of pressure on a young person. Yeah, I just hope that they have good people around them is all I would say. If they do have a good bag, and if they're 16 now, and if we get the adoption at the rate that I'm hoping for, they could have $60 million by the time they were like 25 or more. Again, that's just a lot. Like I don't think I was emotionally mature enough, even just 4 years ago in my 20s, to be able to handle that amount of money. So anyway, that's just my thoughts. I'm happy for him. I think he's going to do really well, but be careful what you wish for. More power comes more responsibility. Go ahead and get down to the bottom of the stack here. We are closing in on an hour and a half, and I'm going to try to keep it light, bright, and tight tonight so it's consumable for people that come back in later on. Thank you for the super chat, Honest Aim. He says, Jake, thanks for all that you do for us in the Mastermind. Will you create a list of steps to take once the event happens, like NDAs with family for wishing to remain private, not like an LLC? So when we work with a family to set up a family office, we definitely have documentation that we have templated to be able to draft and put in place for marital agreements. I don't know that you need NDAs with family. You should have a certain understanding with them, but you can adopt governance and a code of ethics for the family to be able to participate and get access to certain things. And people might say that's wrong, right? Look, you got to protect yourself, okay? You come into money, relationships change, regardless of if you want them to or not. They're going to. And so if you can set the rules of the road up front and say, hey, look, these are the expectations. This is my expectation of you. This is your expectation of me. And all of that's communicated clearly, regardless of what that is, whether it's NDAs or anything else. I think that provides the foundation for a beneficial relationship long term. And if people don't know what the expectations are, or if those are kind of ambiguous, and that's when animosity gets, things happen, and then people react a certain way. And if there weren't guide rails to begin with, then you go off the rails, and relationships don't last long term. So I would just make sure that you have, family compass or charter. We can help you set that up through the family office. It's the first thing we do. Once you have that, you kind of understand the long-term vision of the family. We'll draft governance and ethics documents associated with that, and how family members can participate in the wealth of the family, and some of the NDAs and other disclosures and things are grouped in with that. So, we absolutely do have that when you guys are ready. North of $20 million in assets is when we start working with families. And so happy to share those tips with you when the time is right. Let's see here. It'd be great if XRP could throw us a bone and go up a little bit. I don't. When it's time, it's like, you'll know it's time when it's time. Until then, it's just going to keep doing what it's been doing. When it's used, it's going to leave this. You're not even going to be able to see the chart behind it on the chart for where it goes. Jim Bone says, is there a minimum of digital assets to set up an LLC? No. You can do it at any point. We normally don't. I'd always do a cost to benefit, right? Like if you have less than $50,000 invested in digital assets, irrespective of what those are, I don't know that it provides you a whole lot of benefit, even if you are going to be taking profits. You could move it into the LLC after appreciation and then take the profits, or move it into a trust and then take the profits, So, but yeah, I mean, there's not a minimum. You could have one XRP and set up an LLC for a holding company if you wanted to. But I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. So just a cost to benefit, right? If you're going to spend $1,000 on the LLC, how much digital assets does that give you on the other side of appreciation? What value is that? Are you going to be able to offset taxes if you have this versus investing it there? I would do that calculation. That's all I'm saying. Let's see here. Get on down here so we make sure we get through things for people. Kyle Thompson says, from the UK, many thanks. It's early, and I finally got you. It is very early there in the UK, brother. I appreciate you hopping on and making time this early in the morning. It is 4:30 in the morning. Appreciate you being on here, and hopefully you're getting in some cardio or doing something productive early in the morning. Good to see somebody from the UK is up and at them. Let's see here. Scroll on down. This is exactly right. Yeah, Kirk says the longer the delay, the bigger the pay. I would tend to agree with him. Let's see here. See if I can find. Are there any other super chats I'm missing? I don't want to leave anybody out if they did pay for me to answer their question. Yeah, here we go. Wes, he says, appreciate you on the super chat, brother. He says, do you think there's going to be a flip of the switch over the night type of event for XRP? I think that there could be a liquidity crisis, either in traditional markets or on exchanges. And when that happens, they're going to need to be able to settle real time and draw down liquidity and provide liquidity to ecosystems. And I think XRP does that. And I think it's a really viable solution. I think all of the parties that would need to use it maybe already have access to it in some capacity. And so for that reason, if there is a crisis, a liquidity crisis in particular, whether that's orchestrated or it happens naturally, that's up to you. I think that there could be a moment when XRP is used at scale to move value that people don't realize, and would move to a value that would be hard for people to comprehend. And if you want to call that a flip of the switch moment, so be it. I do think that there's a circumstance where you would see an instant rise in XRP to a price that people have a hard time justifying after what it's been through and all the things that are going on. But again, that's contingent on certain scenarios playing out. And when those things do play out, you'll know. you would be sitting back and smiling because you're confident that this is going to be the deal that actually transpires in some appreciation of the asset. And I don't think it's going to move anywhere close to what people want until we do see some situation like that play out. So that may or may not be the answer that you wanted, but I like to qualify things and give actual context around them so that you can have an understanding of what to look for and not just hope that, one morning you're going to wake up for a high price XRP. There's going to have to be actual events that transpire for that to actually happen. Marco, appreciate you, brother. He says, does the Hershey Corp is the largest buyer of cocoa beans whole affect the price? So is cocoa beans a security of Hershey? So why can't Ripple affect the price of XRP? Ripple does influence the price of XRP, but the whole point of the lawsuit is to remove Ripple from XRP, right? So if Ripple were to cause an appreciation of XRP by buying up all the XRP off of the secondary market or flooding, like, they have to be a good custodian treasury. That's why they have the escrow. They're there to maintain price stability, to be able to facilitate their business function. They do that through many means, but I see what your point is here, because there is a limited supply of cacao and that's on the market, and there are constraints. And so if Hershey were to purchase a lot of it, there's a scarcity, and therefore price goes up, right? And so what I just mentioned there, if there were a circumstance where Ripple bought all the XRP off the secondary market and all from all the exchanges, they could drive price very high. You can do that too. If you got a couple $2 billion and you want to get onto Uphold or one of these other exchanges and drop it in the pot without a TWAP or without averaging into the market, you're going to have a ton of slippage and fees and problems, but it will cause a big spike in the price. So it doesn't benefit anybody if they do that. They need adoption at scale from other parties outside of themselves. And if they're causing fluctuations in the price and people believe that they have the capability to do that, then they're not going to want to participate on the network because it would be centralized and somebody else could be orchestrating things. And there would be counterparty risk, right? So I guess that would be my justification for that, would be it doesn't benefit anybody. It doesn't benefit them. It doesn't benefit the adoption of the network. And so therefore they wouldn't be the one to do it. A lot of good questions tonight. But again, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I do want to say I appreciate everybody with all the questions in the chat, like I said. And, lastly, if you guys find value in this, we do have a couple conversations every single week in the Mastermind group. It's mastermind.beyondbroke.com. We do Mondays and Saturdays where we go over a lot of the same topics that we have here. And then in further in depth on things, we do offer private investment through the Mastermind group. So if you are interested in private equity and exclusive deals, you have that capability there. And then if you want a consult with our firm at Digital Ascension Group, either for wealth management or for just general estate planning, you can check that out at digitalfamilyoffice.io. or if it's on the wealth management side, digitalwealthpartners.net. So with that, there is one last question here from Space Cash. Appreciate you on the super chat, brother. He says, no crystal ball, but do you see by the time we hit $100 per token, we have insured yield and collateralized loan opportunities? I'd rather have a $20 XRP with yield than 100 without. I mean, we already have capability for AMMs, right? The thing I'm waiting on for really the adoption there at scale for institutions is digital identity on chain. Once we get that amendment, I think you're going to see significant adoption of the network for DeFi and applications that people just don't realize yet. And the tokenization of, maybe the large majority of the stock market and other things. We're working on some stuff for private investment. So, my anticipation is that we will have a lot of those things that you're hoping for there. I do think that we'll probably get some liquidity before then, before all the yield options and collateralized loans are in place. We do have the capability for collateralized loans now through a third party. We can get you, a reasonable loan against your XRP held with us, 50% collateral at 8%, but you do need over $1 million in XRP to be able to do that. So anyway, happy to have that discussion with you if that's something you're interested in. But yeah, I think if they're not there beforehand, they'll be there very shortly after price appreciation. And then Jay Henry says, appreciate you again on the super chat, brother. He says, my cousin Marvin Davis got his LLC from the Mastermind. Can you explain the BOIR to us? Yeah, so beneficiary of intent is something that was made required this year by FinCEN, this Corporate Transparency Act, or the CTA. They require the disclosure of the beneficiaries of LLCs that are filed this year within 90 days of the filing. Otherwise, you are assessed $500 per day in fees. When we work with people, we file that for you. If you go with us and pay the $1,000, we make sure that that's done. It's not public information. It's only available to FinCEN just to prevent money laundering and shell companies. So, I'm okay with it. It is under appeal, but just because it's under appeal doesn't mean you don't have to file. Only the people that appealed it are the ones that don't have to file. So if you have an LLC that you filed this year, I would recommend that you go ahead and get the BOI filed for it. If you have a trust, you can designate that as the beneficiary of intent. So that's one of the other benefits of having a trust that owns the equity of the LLC. But anyway, yeah, we're happy to help you with that or answer any further questions that you might have. And I appreciate you bringing it up for people. Anyway, so that seems like it's it. Like I said before, I appreciate you guys. I hope you'll have a wonderful week. Happy Monday, and we'll see y'all on the next one.